Okay, cool. Now that we have the Sekiro Hotline Miami joke out of the way, I'm going to make this abundantly clear because I respect your time. If you're thinking about getting this game in any shape or form, just get it. It's one of the most unique and memorable experiences that I've had with the game. Here's a surface level summary, in fact, just so you don't have to watch the entire video. The story has such an enthralling presentation that you just can't help investing yourself in it. In fact, it's the first piece of media that's ever made me cry, and that's why I hold it so close to my heart. The fast-paced combat is fun and satisfying as it requires logical thinking and fast reflexes from the player on how you're going to tackle the scenario that you're in. And the art style, ugh, Jesus, I don't even have to say anything. This video isn't long for no reason. Whilst the game is short and if you're taking your time you can finish this in as little as 5 to 6 hours on your first playthrough, it doesn't mean there isn't much to talk about, praise and analyze. Now I'm gonna warn you, the strong majority of this video is about analyzing the story without the DLC, so it'll probably be outdated by then. But I'll be sure to analyze that too. If you want to know my thoughts on the gameplay, here's a timestamp for you, alright? You still here? Cool. Strap in, folks. It's gonna be a long one. You play as a skilled swordsman called Zero, who will now be referring to as Sekiro because, funny, at first, you may seemingly possess this time ability to slow down and rewind time whenever you want, but you actually possess this ability called precognition that allows you to plan out your attack. From what happens in the game, I have a lot of theories on what this drug actually does to Sekiro, and yes, I did spend a lot of time theorizing, but I worked hard on this, so let me have my spotlight. In the first mission, you're tasked to rescue an imprisoned scientist. So you go in, slice and dice, and effortlessly save the scientist. Look at you, being the hero. Meet V. You don't know his name is V up to this point, but for now I'm just going to tell you that he's a major antagonist in the game. A remarkably interesting character that we'll analyze later. In this level he sends his goons after you, which of course you're going to mop the floor with, and then you proceed to peace out. You return home to a filthy apartment and try sleeping. However, you can't sleep without drinking your herbal tea. And if you didn't think someone in the game would do something along the lines of drug your herbal tea, you're probably gonna feel real stupid. You proceed to sleep and dream of a nightmare. Now, I'm not going to do the edgy voice where I tell you what happens because honestly, it's corny as hell and it wouldn't really do the scene justice. So I'm just gonna play the scenes that occur that are really important. Capiche? Cool. One thing that the game gets right is that it always leaves the player wanting more through its abstract presentation. The shadows in the scene are obviously there to pique the player's curiosity, as you don't know who or what they are. Not knowing what these shadows are and having one that seemingly attacks you overtly displays that these shadows have a high importance to the story. This presentation leads the player to think and work out these mysteries in the duration of playing the game. I assume this was part of Sekiro's past as we're put in the shoes of a child that looks somewhat like him. Of course, this nightmare isn't the only example of abstract presentation, but we have barely scraped the surface of this game, so just keep your socks on. Why did I say that? That's not even in the script. After you wake up from this nightmare, you go to the psychiatrist, who you'll be regularly visiting for the rest of the game. or as I like to call him, psychiatrist. No, it's not even funny as a bad joke. We learn that our protagonist bumped head, lost mem, but has a method to tell him that he was a good boy during the war. When he told me this, I intuitively knew that he was an antagonist. It's such a vague explanation of what happened in the war. Like, come on, surely he knows more than you just hit your head, kid. Nevertheless, the psychiatrist and you go through your nightmare and try to work out details. First detail that you learn is that the shadow that attacked you was a scientist, and his intention was never actually to hurt you. It was clear to me from this point that we were going to go through these sessions to uncover what happened in Sekiro's past. This is due to the nightmare slowly being uncovered as he talks about it. And like I said previously, how we're put in the shoes of someone that looks like Sekiro as a child. After you're finished, he gives you a quote-unquote medicine that seemingly warps time around 0. He also gives you a file that gives you someone to assassinate? What? My first interpretations were that the medicine was linked to your quote-unquote time powers because of the fact that the room warps as he injects you with a syringe. I don't feel like I need to expand on that at all. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And the files that he gave you also implies that he's linked with your employers. However, this guy is not presented in an ominous way in the game. It seems like Zero has an intimate, meaningful relationship with him. This intimacy caused me to think that his psychiatrist was just a pawn, when I considered that the other quote-unquote employers are presented in such a mysterious manner. There are so many ways of interpreting this one scene. It's more of an introduction to what you're in for. You go to the Murdower Hotel to assassinate. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't notice a sign that had murder in it and additionally had the owl flashing red. That's just a cute little detail that I wanted to mention. And you'll instantly get a tonal shift, to say the least. Meet the receptionist. She's adorable. Not in that way, I'm not crushing over a few pixels. I mean in the way of... Actually, I've written myself in the corner here. Forget it. I love her because she functions as a form of comedic relief. I mean, for God's sake, you can talk to her about anime. If you didn't pick the cosplay option on your first run, I mean, what's wrong with you? She completely geeks out and flirts with you, and it's just such a great conjunction of cute and funny. No, I'm not crushing over a few pixels. Funny thing is that this conversation could actually work in your favor after you complete your mission. For example, a police officer comes to you to state why you're covered in ketchup, and if you refer back to your previous conversation with the receptionist, she confirms the conversation that you actually had, and he lets you roam free. It's hilarious. These funny moments are carefully placed around the game, so the tonal shift doesn't feel out of place or unwarranted. It's not like you're going through a trench of evil and suffering, and then Dave Chappelle hits you with 5 fingers to the face. It's more of going through a trench of suffering with little dabs of flowers here and there, so the world doesn't feel completely hopeless. Additionally, without these comedic moments, the heavy themes the game explores will get monotonous after a period of time, but with that relief, the player can have a little break from those themes, therefore making the heavier content easier to consume. The developer's personality is just beautifully painted all over this game. Okay, maybe I have a little crush on the reception. I'm kidding! Maybe. Let's talk about the confrontation with the person you're going to assassinate. Josh Rose. You don't know anything about this guy apart from what's on the dossier, but he talks about being surprised there's more than one if you left. You are completely clueless to what this means at any point. I personally interpreted this as being one of 2 scenarios in my first playthrough. Either having assassins like you that came from the war, or you're just being one of many clones that have been produced by an organization. Nevertheless, he doesn't expand on this rather vague statement and says, "I won't let you get the satisfaction of killing me," and jumps off the balcony. Again, another example of abstract presentation to invest the player in the game world. Oh, you thought we were ending it there? You return home from your mission and a little girl bumps into you. He has this bratty kid personality that for some reason I just can't help to love. It's weird. The bratty personality combined with the innocence of a young child and the fact that she doesn't have a firm understanding about the world around her just really gets to me. Throughout playing the game, you learn that she has a father, and the game implies that he is neglectful of her existence. Her father doesn't even check to see if his daughter is hanging out with someone, you know, responsible. For all you know, I might be a licensed assassin who gets random drugs injected into his arm. You don't know me. So not only do you feel sorry for her, the absence of a father ironically makes you the father figure in this game. So you develop this father-daughter bond with her. This bond between you and her further invests you in the game world, but in this case, you're not invested through curiosity, you're invested through emotion. Anyway, blah blah blah, she complains about the people playing music next door, and you two find out that you're neighbors. And once again talk to the therapist about a nightmare that's reoccurred. But all that really covers is that a scientist was just warning you about the shooter. I mean, I don't know if it was just me, but that was completely clear to me by the fact that he ran into a room with a shooter behind him. It's not like he's going to be like, hi Sekiro, I'd like you to meet my friend who seemingly has a 9mm pistol aimed around my head.
No! He wasn't ready. He wasn't ready.
The short meeting mostly focuses on you meeting a little girl. And I meant the child, not the receptionist. However, that would have been hilarious. I was surprised you couldn't talk about the receptionist in the game. Fam, I think she's the one. After all, she likes anime. He basically says to you that he's surprised that there's a child in the district, as it's not a safe place to be. And depending on what you say, he may iterate to you that you should stay away from her. For your sake and for hers. Basically foreshadowing that she's and I'm not going to lie, I was kind of ashamed that I didn't pick up on that implication. Anyway, let's talk about the club mission. You're tasked with taking out Electrohead, a popular DJ from the upscale 2nd district, involved in some trafficking of club drugs. Club drugs? Yeah, it's staying in. Club drugs. Lightly guarded but surrounded by club goers. Extreme finesse is required to eliminate without detection. Pathological liar, do not speak to him. What? Okay. No, I'm going to speak to him. Before we talk to Electrohead, I'd like to commend the comedic relief that again appears in the game. If you do not want these jokes spoiled for you in the gameplay, please, I beg of you, skip to this timestamp. These are honestly hilarious. I'd legit stop killing enemies just to see how these characters talk and interact with my actions. For instance, you encounter an enemy that tells you you're not supposed to be here. Of course, you don't care and turn him inside out. But then all of a sudden, you get a character who runs over to him and mourns his death, referring to him as Strong Terry. Furthermore, there's another moment when you meet this character called Slender Richard, who wants to become part of the club called the Skinny Rickies, who was required to change his head to a pompadour, survive a trial by grease fire, and then shotgun a beer. Justin, what were you smoking? It sounds ridiculous, because it is. But at the same time, it's so heartwarming when they join together, and the game decides to make you feel bad by making Slender the Richard say, I can't wait to tell Strong Terry about this. Oh my god. This game adding comedic personality to these enemies doesn't make you see them as AI whose only purpose is to get slain. It makes you see them as actual people, which once again immerses the player into the world by being emotionally invested, by feeling like a complete D-word. These aren't full-on characters. The game doesn't build up on them in the story because they overtly don't really pose any importance to the story. The focus of these guys is just to make the world feel alive, and with these moments that are well written, damn does it work. Before you go to Electrohead, the game reiterates to you, hey, don't talk to this guy. He's not going to reveal any information that will turn you against us. So you of course go into the room and talk to him. And if your first instinct is not to talk to him, what's a good analogy? You know when rappers talk about talking to women in their rap songs, and as soon as they're confronted with a girl, it's like they've never seen a woman in their life? I bet if someone told you that these people got attractive women because of their winning personality, you'd be like, oh well, if you say so. Nevertheless, you talk to this guy, and of course, he's scared to the bone because a dude in a bathrobe is threatening him with a sword. So he lets off details about a drug that warps time. Nah, never heard of it. If you carry on with this conversation, the dude will later on unexpectedly get shot by V through a window. And this led me to believe that all these people that you're hired to kill are connected to this drug that changes people's perception of time. I personally have a theory of these motives that I'll explain once I fully explain the narrative for you guys. But for now, we're going to keep going with the story. After that experience, you of course slice and dice through another group of goons and escape the club without a scratch, completing your mission. And there is a motorbike in the distance ruining my recording, but I'm going to keep it in. Screw it. This is a long video already. I'm not spending time with this. There are a lot of ways someone could interpret this one scene. Basically, the little girl waits outside your door, saying that there's a Leviathan toy trapped inside your room. She knows this because the behemoth toy that she has in her hand lights up whenever Leviathan is near. When you both go into your room, you find that a Leviathan is under your couch. When you find it, she does this adorable roar. Then after a little bit more of cute interaction, she leaves the room. Now, what comes to interpretation about this scene is that Behemoth and Leviathan are both biblical characters, so it leads me to believe that there's some sort of metaphor that takes place when you're talking. I did a bit of research and there's multiple interpretations of what these characters symbolize, but a consistent interpretation that I see with Leviathan is that he symbolizes a source of evil, a serpent, defying the authority of God. Behemoth seems to be a foil of that type of character, described as a beast symbolic of integrity and loyalty. This could potentially represent somebody of deceit and evil attracting somebody of loyalty and integrity and innocence, meaning that this girl is going to be harmed by your actions in some sort of way, despite being nothing but kind to you. Additionally, Sekiro being the possessor of Leviathan could represent him not only being evil, but his exposure to the little girl in Behemoth displays that he has a choice to either continue his current lifestyle as a contract killer or discontinue that lifestyle and become somebody better. Like I said, specifically because of Behemoth being presented to him. I don't know. With the biblical toys being used, I thought there might be some sort of message being communicated to the player. And I thought I might try to read from another perspective. You and the psychologist recount on the last night's assignment. If you were the definition of naive, he'll reward your loyalty with a few kind words. If you were actually playing the game, he'll question you on whether you started using guns. You could choose to confront him on what the DJ Electrohead said to you last night, and he'll start throwing a temper tantrum. Stable human being. Throughout this conversation, he reveals that the drug is what gives you this precognition ability and godlike reflexes. With this information, you can either continue taking the drug, which he insists you take because you're so-called a quote-unquote god, or you can defy his demands. If you choose the second option of defying his demands, he will insult you and say you're ungrateful for the power that's been bestowed upon you. Man, this guy sounds like he needs therapy. I chose to defy his insistence of giving me the drug, expecting some sort of alternative path, and I noticed I wasn't given a dossier for my next contract, but I was, and it continually repeated the word kill. For me to explain this, I'm going to have to introduce comedy and tragedy, two characters that are debated to either be supernatural figures or figments of Sekiro's hallucinations. That being said, it's implied that at face value, Tragedy gave you this dossier when he calls you on a drug dealer as Brickphone and tells you that you need to kill every single mofo in that prison. If you choose to comply with the psychiatrist, he'll give you a dossier that requires you to take a stealthier approach without killing anyone. And okay, I know we're supposed to talk about the story here, but I recommend you all to defy the psychotherapist's demands and kill everyone that you see in that prison. If you do that, you will unlock something cool that we'll talk about later in the gameplay section. But if you comply with the psychotherapist's demands and take the stealthier approach, you'll still get the secret, but what you'll go through is a lot more infuriating than the latter. A lot more infuriating than the latter. Anyway, back to the story. We're about to go to prison and fall to money. Oh. Go to the prison to still find our target, only to find him dead in his cell. I mean, you guys aren't criminals, you're police officers. But looking at our current climate, I don't really feel bad about this. You escape the prison unscathed, and then you walk across the street to see a homeless man on the floor. All of a sudden, he starts screaming at you that you didn't give him any money. Now, we're gonna play a little game. Do you A, walk away assuming that he's a drug addict? Or B, do you talk to him and obviously get nowhere, evidently seen in his welcoming, warm behavior? Or C, do you kill him? If you killed the police officer in that prison, you have the options between B and C. And if you chose B, congratulations, you're not a psychopath. If you stealthily go through the prison without killing anyone, congratulations, you picked C. No, like, the game auto picks for you. You literally have no choice.
Well, I'm not gonna kill him. Look, I've got a service medal. What? No! Don't kill him. What? What do you mean? I said I have a service medal. I didn't say kill him. Oh my god.
Whilst this might seem retarded, and this honestly caused me to do a redo of the prison section stealthily because I honest to God thought this was a mistake, this in a way shows the Sekiro's insatiable bloodlust. He feels a need to kill, and anyone who does as much as insult him can be seen as his enemy. In turn, this exhibits to us that he doesn't kill because he has to, he kills because he likes it. You walk home and you see this adorable little girl again. Since I'm a guy, I can't. Nope, I'm removing that from the recording. Nope, I am. You walk home only to see the little girl again. This girl makes me want to honestly have a daughter. Anyway, ignoring my weird emotional attachment to this character, she claims that she has some weird film that someone gave her. Now, if you have sense, you know that what's on that film is probably disgusting. Regardless, you enter your apartment and watch the film that she gave you. It starts off with neighbors playing some loud ass music, basically talking about nothing, like being like the classic Skater 2000 dudes. Then all of a sudden, someone banging on their door. They of course open to see who it is. And then V slap a mofo and straight up knocks him out. He ties up the other mofo and starts straight up torturing him. Why? Well, because they're blasting music and it keeps Sekiro up at night. So V genuinely thinks that he's doing you a favor. Take note upon that. Another key aspect in this game is that he injects a drug in them that seemingly warps time and says this is an experimental drug. What? So the crap that your psychologist is injecting in your arm is on the streets, and he's injecting that into people whilst torturing them. Keep that in mind for later. After that tape shortly ends, the player notices that the music has stopped. See what I mean by this voice being corny? Yeah, I'm not gonna do that for the rest of the review, I'm sorry. In this nightmare, the little girl is absent, as Sekiro seems to be playing with Behemoth. This shows that the real life occurrences happening in the present are contributing to your nightmares representative of your past. Nevertheless, the same scenario occurs, but Sekiro manages to hide under the bed before the shadowy silhouette sees him. After the doctor is killed, it goes to the control panel, and of course, we're unaware of what it's typing and who it is. You walk into the office expecting to see the psychologist, only for him to not be there. So you walk out of the building, but let's be honest, when walking this slow, we all know that something's gonna pop out of nowhere. And that random thing is a white limousine that says your presence is needed. Now if a limousine rolls up to you, do you A. question who they are and if they give a bad answer, run and scream to get attention, or B. get in with no questions asked, or B. because the game wants to make things happen? I'm sorry, this story is really good. I honestly can't pick out any major bad things about it, so I'm resorting to making up problems that weren't really there in the first place. Wow, I'm like the new cosmonaut. Yuck yuck. Wait, what's that? Oh no, it's the controversial statement alarm. God damn it, get the alarm.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment, and I don't expect to be forgiven. I'm simply here to apologize.
Go to the limo to meet B. He starts fanboying over you and even offers you some hardcore uncut drug. You can sniff it, don't worry. You don't have to, but the option's always there, so you might as well. Nothing really happens either way because the same outcome will happen. He offers to team up with you. You unironically call him a subhuman. And then he kicks you out of his car for not being appreciated for his services. Now before I move on with the story, I'd actually like to criticize a problem that I've had with the game's dialogue. It's just... the swearing feels unnecessary. Now I know that I said the game manages to balance tone very well, and for the majority of the time it does. The game is entirely self-aware of what it is. It balances its weeb jokes and memes with the moments that can cause the player to get emotionally attached to characters. However, the purpose of swearing is to emphasize the expressions of contempt, but it backfires as it really just feels out of place. Personally, I'd just say remove it. Remove for the DLC, just remove swearing entirely. If I'm being a little too much of a religious boy, this is pretty much one out of the two valid criticisms that I have for the game's presentation. Basically what I'm saying here is, buy the game. Once you get out of the car, you run after the car to see where they're going. With a passion. In fact, your passion is so strong that you followed them for hours. In fact, the sun set once you arrive to the... Okay, look, alright, I love this game and I'm honestly trying to stretch what I can criticize about it. Bear with me. He didn't expect you to follow him and decides to bust a cap in your ass. Fortunately, you remember you have superpowers and deflect the bullet right at his face. But curiously, he manages to deflect the bullet back. V, you taking drugs? I mean, yeah, you're obvious. I made a Chronos joke, okay? You chase him through a studio to presumably kill him. I don't know why else you would really be here, so that's what I'm saying. So you basically go through a variety of courses and then meet him with some finance broads. He then tells you to leave the room, and then you get ready for an anime boss battle. You of course beat his ass and come out on top. However, the second that you're about to kill him, this is Snow. By her presentation, she seems like someone who's extremely skilled in martial arts. In fact, when she charges you, if you draw a battle stance, she manages to instantly nail the school that you went to learn your swordsmanship. If you don't flinch, she responds with a brief like, that's anime AF. Oh wow, I said AF out loud, I'm never doing that again. Regardless of what you pick, she calls you a waste of time and vanishes out of the room, taking V with her. There's an analysis here that I want to make now, which I will reference later, and I really want you to take note of this. Whenever she moves or teleports, she always leaves cherry blossoms on the floor. Since this game has influences from Japanese culture, from Sekiro's Katana to the mentioning of Shinkajiro School, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, to the mentioning of anime and etc. I searched up what do cherry blossoms represent in Japanese culture. When searching across multiple websites, a consistency of what blossoms symbolize is the transience of life. Remember this for later. Anyway, you guys part ways with them spitting in your face, and then you go back to your apartment. After that hell of a night, you have a cute conversation with the little girl again, that dresses as you for Halloween. She asks for some candy in the bratty adorable manner that she usually does, so you of course go to your fridge and try to get some candy for her. And you give her a fish head. Alright, I won't question it. The game just wants to make me feel bad for giving the girl a fish head. Alright, no problem. Do your thing, Justin. Okay, I played the game for like a 5th time and I found out you could actually search the couch for candy and give her butterscotch instead. I feel a lot better that I can give her actual candy, but the problem is it's from my couch. Candy's candy, she's not gonna complain. Anyway. Tragedy and comedy are supernatural characters that serve to taunt you throughout the entire game. Tragedy is a character that speaks in a sort of dark Shakespearean manner, while comedy is obviously the comedic relief of the game. However, he still speaks in a normal way which most people could actually understand. Due to the ambiguity of these characters, there are way too many theories to what these guys actually are and what their purpose is in the actual game. You're still sleeping on your couch when these two characters appear in front of you. They claim to have drugged your tea, so that's why you're unable to get up and kick their ass. The main purpose of this interaction is to tell you that in 3 days, they'll give you a choice to bear the mask of golden life. Nope, that's going in. The golden mask of life and the silver mask of death. And if it's not clear enough, they're saying that you'll have to pick whether you want to live or die. Like I said, if it's not clear enough. And if you pick one, they'll take away the other. The vagueness in which they speak in leaves interpretations for the player to make for themselves. At first, I personally interpreted this as them saying they'll take away the other, as if I want to live, they'll take away my ability to die. At the surface, it seems like, hey, immorality. But the way they cackle and taunt you leads me to believe that if I choose to live, my character would be begging to die. For example, maybe Sekiro endures an eternity of torture with no end. But like I said, this is no fact, this is just perception. This is a great way to further invest the player into the world, because the ambiguity the game presents to you makes you want to try and figure out who these guys are, what their purpose is, and what do their foreshadowings or sentences mean. The vague way in which these witches present the future doesn't actually reveal enough for the reader to go off from, which of course leads to interpretation of what will actually happen instead of certainty of what will actually happen. In this instance, what you pick as the consequence of the life or death situation will be the ultimate factor to which one you pick in those 3 days. Anyway, after they're done spitting their bars, you wake up and they vanish. You then all of a sudden appear in the psychiatrist's office with no warning whatsoever. You could participate in this conversation, but the more you talk, the more you realize that he isn't listening to you whatsoever. Once you realize this, he starts cursing at you, gets up and turns into V and straight up just whips your ass into another location. You're teleported to this cathedral, whilst words on the screen give you thoughts and details about the past. He shows how he regrets killing peasants, but doesn't really feel regret for killing soldiers in the battlefield. He says how the time is repeating, and how a week feels like a year, and how the mosquitoes are getting longer, due to the drug that he's taking. The more you walk, the more the synths get louder, the longer the music stretches out, the more the music starts to slow down, emulating the feeling of time coming to a stop. The same logic can be applied to how long the cathedral is, as that might be affected by the drug's effects. The amount of immaculate detail in this scene evokes a sense of emotion and even getting some people to cry. Except me though. Testosterone! Let's talk about theories now, because we've analysed this basically from the surface. Notice how I said the past and not Sekiro's past. On the surface level, it's quite easy to assume that Sekiro is talking in this instance because he's the only character that you know currently that's alive, taking a drug that affects one's perception of time. I personally couldn't come up with a theory to describe what this scene could possibly mean. I specifically focused on the stained glass windows in the background, but me not be strict religion boy, so I don't know what these windows represent. So I asked people on Reddit, and these two sexy people gave me their interpretations of what they thought. So let's read over them now. Reddit user Mr. Holt said, "It looks like there are 3 different stained glass windows and they start repeating. The first image looks like a depiction of Adam and Eve. Eve is holding the apple and gesturing it towards Adam. This scene is usually used to represent the original sin, which in Zero's case could probably mean the things that he did in the war. This is also echoed by the God damn, I can't read. This is also echoed by the text that is displayed the first time you see it, which says, 'Burning those villages, watching those naked peasants cry.' The charge itself also ties itself into the theme of penitence. The second image is the hardest to make much of. The person sitting looks like the traditional depiction of Jesus, but there isn't really much to go off of. It kinda looks like when Jesus is taken off the cross, but I don't really know. This could represent Zero losing his memory and separating himself from the war. The third image looks like to be a depiction of birth of Jesus Christ. This could represent Zero's rebirth as a hero or savior after he's lost his memory. Overall, it looks like a reordering and repetition of the typical biblical narrative. In addition, they're out of order. Traditionally, churches order their stained glass windows so you can visually see the narrative in order. This could tie into Zero's immortality and the theme of time for the game. The repetition could represent the horrifying monotony of Zero's experience. The game itself is quite disordered timeline-wise, and the incorrect order of the windows could help tie into the theme of distorted time. They could also just be picking a bunch of recognizable church imagery. That would be very disappointed. I'd be so disappointed. Okay. It looks like some odd reordering of the typical Christian narrative. Maybe it's to connect to Zero's story, or it's just some nice set dressing for the church. The small Reddit communities have always been really nice. Okay, never mind. Reddit user Jexial54? Jexial54? I don't know. This Reddit user said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't pronounce your name. They all represent biblical scenes. The stained glass windows are made up of 4 parts, 3 representations of biblical events, 1 in the middle, 2 on the right and left sides. They are all below a representation of the Holy Trinity. I let you find the events shown in them. I could not be bothered due to how long this video is, mate. Man, this audio editing is already taking a long time. Do you think video editing is gonna take any less? Never mind. I have another interpretation from a guy on YouTube called Go Away Noah. His one doesn't really focus on the stained glass windows, but more specifically focuses on who's actually speaking and what their favor is. Teleport to a street and you're replaced with the homeless man you met earlier. You have the same dialogue that the homeless man said to you, whilst tragedy and comedy continually taunt you and your drug abuse. The phrase, "the drink was all this man ever was, and when it's gone what remains is the bottle," just translates to mean once the substance is gone, which is a reference to the drug itself, Sekiro is a valueless character. This is additionally followed up by them calling him pathetic and then trying not to make eye contact with you shortly after. This may potentially display to the player that despite being a badass, once that drug is gone, you're nothing to the government or society. And I'm sorry if I just gave you a really poorly written GCSE essay. I apologize. You all of a sudden wake up from this weird sequence, and then your psychiatrist says that he's increased your dosage to compensate for going without the drug. You literally need this every single day in order to survive. Again, this makes me think my interpretation of the homeless scene is correct. As if the government stopped providing you with this drug, who knows what could possibly happen. Let me repeat, you literally went 1 day without it. And you had some next level trippy experience that obviously freaked you out, which again I'll emphasize, makes you nothing more than a pawn. But you basically shake it off and, and go on to perform your next contract. Killing. Alquazim. You travel to the next mission to find Alquazim, and then you straight up Batman through that window ceiling, only to find... Okay, this is too coincidental for my own good, but you meet V again. However, you manage to samurai jack through these mofos, with his blue hair brother getting in the way, so you continue to slice and dice through the mission, only to notice that it's the same location as your hallucination. That's a bit odd. You continually go through the mansion, where there's this extremely easy section compared to everything else you just fought through. You know what, why am I analyzing this? You'll most likely get through this easily. These sneaky bastards. These little details in the game, such as yes, that should work instead of yes, that works, is genius. This type of foreshadowing hits me with a right hook because it's one of those things that you think I should have seen that coming, but I didn't, and that's a sign of great writing and actually shows how one should actually write a twist. It would be a lot less admirable if the game said, yes, that works, and I still got my face blown, because there's no possible way of one predicting that actually happening in the future. And this future actually leads us to getting kidnapped by V. You wake up tied in a chair, with the Russian asking you for your last words. He also looks at a character called Mr. Kissy Face. Justin, your game's on point, and tells you to get rid of your body. Mr. Kissy Face proceeds to respond with, sure thing V. Keep in mind, you don't actually know his name is V yet, so before you die, you think of your last words, you look at his hair, you take a deep breath, and call him gay. You wake up tied in the chair with the Russian asking you for your last words. You then proceed to say, I want answers V. I told you my name. You should probably cut his tongue out. What a waste of time. I'm going to be late for my date. I bet. He's ugly. What if it was a he? What? You're joking about my homosexual identity. You're joking about feelings and attraction that I cannot control. And I thought we lived in a progressive society. Oh, sorry man, I didn't know. That's right, you didn't. Whether I'm gay, straight, les, bi or pan, I should be accepted for who I am. And the fact that you're not a fan, that's pretty homophobic, man. Oh, man, I didn't know it meant this much to you. Too late. You're gay. Cancel. You wake up tied in the chair with the Russian asking you for your last words. You then proceed to say, don't be late for your date, V. He cackles as he says that you're not here for Kronos because he realizes that you're already on it. You then see Alquazim laugh in the corner, so V walks up to him, makes like a Peppa Pig, and stops him like a muddy puddle. In this moment, Sekiro realizes that V has the temper of a racist Fortnite player, so he then proceeds to completely tear down V's self-esteem, insulting his tape, calling out his constant need for Sekiro's validation, causing him to throw a temper tantrum and shoot Alquazim right in the face. V proceeds to vagina. Okay, no, that's a terrible joke. Okay, no, we're moving on. And leads you to a fight with Mr. Kissy Face. Get out of your chair, get the sword, fight to the death, and straight up decapitate this mofo. Mr. Kissy Face? More like Mr. No More Face. Listen, I wrote this at 12:30 at night. I was getting a little loopy. V has the classic bad guy shtick. You know when the villain talks about how he's killed the hero, but he hasn't actually checked if the hero's actually dead? Yeah, one of those things. Snow congratulates him by saying that the dragon is no easy feat, referencing to how you killed goons effortlessly, and if you had a fast reaction time when she charged at you. She also references how you didn't flinch. She says the boss won't be happy that Alquazim is dead, but will be overjoyed to hear that you've killed the dragon. She proceeds to vanish, leaving V to scream, "Do not come close, as those pearls are sharp." Sharp pearls? Askiisoft? Are you foreshadowing a boss battle in the future DLC? You jump on a motorcycle and start chasing this man, chubbing up through enemies that try to stop you. You manage to catch up to him, try to kill V, and then he jumps on a helicopter? Okay, yeah, sure. He starts shooting rockets and bullets at you, but Sekiro pulls off 3 sick gamer shots, and then the helicopter goes down.
Boom, dickhead. That's what I call a fucking gamer shot.
V lies down on the floor in blood, giving his last words. Not knowing that you're completely clueless on what Kronos is, or even who you are. He says to you that he's killed 6 Gnoll before, and even gives you a story of how he killed one Gnoll. Assuming that you are a Gnoll, this shows how V was able to trick you into running into that explosion. He's dealt with people like you before, he knows how Kronos works, which explains why he's so connected to your operation, because if you haven't noticed, everyone you've killed has been some way in some form connected to Kronos. To taunt you, he calls himself the Dragon Slayer. Now I could analyze this character here, but there's not really much to say here, apart from this massive twist that you're not the dragon. It's clear that he's a lot stronger than you, judging from how quickly he sliced in. Twist is a great example of world building, as it shows that you're not the only one who can seemingly utilize precognition at their will. It brings up countless theories to how many of these Gnoll are present, or what these Gnoll are even doing with their lives. It just brings up further questions, which again immerses the player into the world by piquing their interests. Now, since there's a smoldering helicopter in the road, and the government is telling me that's a big no-no, we're going to go to the bar and get a strong drink. You walk into the bar and ask for a strong drink that I don't know because I'm like 12, and start taking 2 shots. 2 old people on the other side of the bar talk about the war. They even say these people called Cro-Mags didn't even know how to fight, so they didn't even know how they won. They ask if you have anything to say about it. You proceed to show a service medal to show that you've actually served in the war they're talking about. Then they proceed to call you a liar, as they believe you are too young to be fighting in the war. Now later in the game, it's revealed that Sekiro's current age is actually 22 years old, and the war ended around 7 years ago, so you would have been around 15. That's when the war ended. The war ended when you were 15 years old and you were fighting in it. Keep that in mind when I go all conspiracy theories on you guys, okay? They even said that they would have won if it wasn't for the people doing child killings. Remember those nightmares that— wow, voice crack of the century. Wow, it's staying in. Remember those nightmares you had when a child was killed by a soldier? Yeah, they even start making fun of you and then proceed to say, F the Cro-Mags. You being that lonely kid in high school that just wants to fit in, join in and curse the Cro-Mags. After a while, he starts talking about the psychic soldiers that started straight up just massacring villages. Yeah, he's talking about those people like you. His friend says it's a conspiracy theory as it just sounds so ridiculous. He then says if the government left the fighting to the real soldiers, they would have won the war, implicitly showing that he has some sort of contempt toward these psychic soldiers, as he sees them as the reason why they didn't even win the war, or why he didn't get all that sweet— I can't even say that ironically. Nevertheless, they pay for your drinks at the bar and leave, whilst you walk back to your home in the most fun way possible, with drunk controls. Because everyone loves drunk controls. Everything— okay, like, listen, right? This isn't a valid criticism. This game didn't pull a Hotline Miami and make you go through a level like this. go home and the girl is waiting for you at your door. She asks for the door and then proceeds to say, "Dad," then tells you to run, then asks for help. However, this shows Sekiro's psyche, in my opinion, and what he actually thinks of the girl. He sees himself as her dad, but due to how he lives his life, he's confused if he should either run or help her. Regardless of what you say, you enter your apartment without her, and then you try to go to sleep. The girl knocks at your door and then trembles to ask if you're mad at her. You can tell her voice is trembling by the way the text starts shaking, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. Nice, askiisoft. Now, Sekiro, you apologize for hurting this poor girl. You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. He says that she didn't get dinner last night, so you decide to be a good dad and give her something to eat. She lightens up and sits on your couch. Look at you. See? Look at you. This is how you act like a... God damn it. Go back to the psychologist's office and he straight up just starts to snap on you, as everything you did yesterday on the highway was on the news. When all of a sudden, I'm not doing that voice. In a hallucination, V comes out of nowhere with no arms and tries to tell you about the withdrawal symptoms of Kronos. When Kronos leaves the system, time slows down until it comes to a complete stop, making one be stuck in their mind and reliving their worst moments, or even their worst nightmares potentially. He says you're going to wish you were dead, but it will never happen. Those neighbors that he gave Kronos to are still suffering from an eternity of torture where nobody can hear them. This premise is really confusing. I don't know if you're stuck in your mind when you go on withdrawal, or whether you'll be stuck in your mind if Kronos just leaves the system. Because withdrawal happens when someone has a dependency on drugs, not just taking a single hit. Those neighbors didn't have a dependency on Kronos, so how the hell would they be stuck in their minds forever in withdrawal? I would have to assume that the game is misusing the word withdrawal, and if someone takes Kronos and it leaves their system, they'll be stuck in an eternity of torture. And if I'm being dumb or missing something, please tell me in the comment sections, because I'm not knowledgeable on drugs, and the hardest drug that I've taken is paracetamol. You revert back to reality once that psychologist gives you that sweet arm candy. I stole that joke. And then tells you that you don't deserve to be called the dragon. Henceforth, you say that you're not quote unquote the dragon, and that he's a separate character. You then go on to describe his physical features, and the psychologist says that he's aware of this guy's existence, and then proceeds to give you an assignment to kill him. Oh my god, this Dusty is gonna give us the details. Come on guys, let's go.
Got him! Got him!
askiisoft. You guys are not funny. There's no way the government doesn't know this guy's age, eye color. For God's sake, even the psychiatrist recognizes him by you just giving physical features. It's clear to see that the government is hiding clear information from you, which can imply that this guy has some sort of connection to you or your past. Did I already mention that this is one of my favorite games of all time? Before you make it to your next location, you see the dragon talk to another female figure, who we'll now refer to as Gamer Girl. Gamer Girl! I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, that wasn't even scripted, that just came out of the blue. Moving on, she questions how the Russian ever knew about No. The dragon says he was nothing more than a fool, but he got information that the person he's working for is trying to bring back Kronos. He says that he's close to getting his revenge for the government taking over their lives and making them into monsters. Gamer Girl continues to say that she's tired of revenge, and with Alkuzim dead, she has no source of Kronos, and that she'll die in withdrawal if she doesn't get her hands on it. You then bust in like the badass that you are, and then Gamer Girl says that she'd be able to handle you. The dragon believes her, and then walks out. She shoots a beam at you, and then you slice her like pepperoni. Or so you think. She clearly has the same time abilities as you, and your precognition abilities came to clash together. You'll make an interesting boss battle, my friend. On the table, the game directs you to a prison tape? Alright, my G. Throughout this entire level, you completely demolish every single man in blue. Black Lives Matter. Go through so many levels that you end up on the street, surrounded by a sea of blue. And that sea of blue is attempting to kill you. Now, I actually thought the game was actually trying to make me fight these mofos. And this could be like 100% possible if the game actually allows you to. But then all of a sudden, tragedy and comedy come out of nowhere, and the cop tells everyone to get back. Tragedy and comedy stop time and remind you that 3 nights ago, you had to pick whether you wanted to live or die. If you choose life, these guys die, and if you choose death, I think you can figure that out for yourself. They also say that this won't only affect you, this will affect the people that you'll seek to protect. And there's only one person that Sekiro actually shows affection towards. The little girl. Now before we make this decision, let's do a little bit more analysis on these characters. I personally believe that the silver mask of death is in reference to the color of Behemoth, and the golden mask of life is in reference to the color of Leviathan. Remember how I said Leviathan symbolizes a serpent, and how Behemoth symbolizes integrity and loyalty? I believe this moment is saying that if you choose to die and wear the silver mask of death, you are loyal to those around you, and you will do anything to keep them safe. Whereas if you choose to live and wear the golden mask of life, you're a selfish snake who truly doesn't care about anyone else but himself. I'm sorry, post-production Joseph here. It's 8:36 in the morning and I've just realized I've completely screwed up. So what I was actually supposed to do here is I was actually supposed to you know, get the colors right. Leviathan is actually blue, Behemoth is orange. So that means when you wear the golden mask of life, that means that you care about everybody around you, blah blah blah. Whereas if you wear the silver mask of death, which is in reference to Leviathan, you're actually risking everybody's safety and only selfish for yourself. I am so sorry, that must have been completely confusing. Listen, like, let's just get on with a crappy meme review, okay? I'm sorry, baby. Wait, you said you were gonna kill my daughter. I mean, she's not really my daughter. It's kind of complicated. Look, just give me the bullet. Okay, if you actually want to play the other 20% of the game, you're going to have to proceed. So you bear the golden mask of life, and the cops proceed to crumble to their demise. Go back home and then you find that the little girl has cleaned up your room. Okay, we need to come up with a name for this character. Something temporary. Actually, just to annoy you, I'm going to call this girl random names for the rest of the analysis. So enjoy that. Rochelle tells you that she's bored and that she wants to go to the movies. Now if you say no, you get this adorable sequence of her saying please. If you keep pressing no, it keeps going and going and going and going and going. So you guys rent samurai movies until Valerie falls asleep. That's what I want to name my child. After she goes into a deep slumber, you remember that prison tape that you picked up on the table. So you decide to pop that in, see what they were hiding. This was the same prison you were in early.
His name is John C. Damn, son.
The dragon slashes through the corpse like warm butter. And he's clearly more experienced, to say the least. With this experience, he manages to quickly get into the cellar of Feyuan and then proceeds to interrogate him, conveniently giving you some helpful information. Stuff like, you know, the creator of Kronos. We're gonna call him Leon because, for God's sake, I cannot be bothered to pronounce that name. Let's just move on. We find out that the government isn't trying to bring back Kronos, but someone else in a high position is. This is quite interesting, as anybody who's been linked to Kronos in any way, no matter how high up in the rank that they are, you're given a task to assassinate them. People that you're working for are actively trying to get rid of traces of Kronos. Perhaps those people are trying to fight back against the boss who's trying to bring it back. This further develops the world that you're in, while simultaneously keeping it vague, making you feel like you're progressing, but still piquing your interest to still be included about what the hell is going on. So with this information, the dragon decides to reward him with a sword. You're about to go to another session with the psychiatrist, but then all of a sudden, someone rings your phone. Hey baby, I don't think you know my name. My name is Leon von Alvis. However the hell you pronounce that name, I don't even know myself. I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. Slaughterhouse and meat processing. 3rd district. You're gonna get slaughtered with a lot of meat from me. Extra spicy. Sekiro makes an exceedingly difficult decision on whether to go to the psychologist or have some fun. I'm kidding, it was not difficult at all. You go to the building to see Leon flash on the scene. Unfortunately, he's not here for a fun time, but as a compromise, he's going to give you vital information about your entire existence, so I think we can both settle with that. This is where soldiers had their skills put to the test for an experiment called the Null Experiment. He disappears off screen and continues to expand upon his information the more you start to cut up people in his base. Near the end, you get put through a test where you gotta do the ultimate slicing and dicing. The rate of survival for an alpha null is 7%. The rate of survival for a beta null is 13%. For a gamma null, the rate of survival is 100%. This basically means that you're at the top of the null class. He then goes forth to explain that these gamma nulls were trained to be super soldiers as children, to be the ultimate soldier. But since you lost the war, the null project and Kronos were seen as failures. With this, he proclaims to see your existence in error, and then says that you'll receive no more Kronos. I don't feel like I need to analyze this bit, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory about how this interests the player and what theories could spark from this. Plus, like, I'm at 9,564 words currently, so we're gonna move on to talk about Leon's work. On the way to Leon's facility, he says that proceeding further would be to terminate your own existence. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna turn back. Going into the facility, we see that an abundant amount of tapes have been stacked upon each other. You have a choice to start playing them, and if you do, you find out that all of these tapes that were on the screen were actually pre-recorded. Nothing was live. This wasn't completely for you, you're not special. These tapes were for multiple soldiers like you, even Josh Rose. The first guy that you killed in the beginning of the game, in my eyes, is implied to be a super soldier. This could imply that he could have tried to put up a fair fight and potentially could have succeeded against you, but he wanted to kill himself. He actively wanted to kill himself. Now these tapes could possibly be for another purpose, but that's my personal theory, and that's the beauty of this vague presentation. Ooh, a cryo tank? I wonder what happens if I press this button. Turn back to your apartment, and then Bastian says that she found something really cool. You of course accept, and go to the rooftop to see an absolutely gorgeous view of our designers flexing their skills, but more importantly, talk about your service medal and how you haven't taken it off in 7 years, as it's a reminder that you actually did something good for once. Tracer asks you why you threw that service medal away. You reply that you have other reminders now.
Aww.
Wanting to stay on the rooftop for a bit longer, the girl expresses a fear that you're unaware of. A fear of the marksmen coming back. When I found this out on my first playthrough, I genuinely thought in my head, "You're not touching my baby girl," and then realized how pathetic I was that I was trying to protect a video game character. The scene is implying that these masked men may have been intimidating or scaring her. This makes me further worry for her safety and also makes me feel guilty for actually playing the game instead of stopping and getting shot. It sounds pathetic because it is, but come on, man. You even make a promise to keep her safe, and then the scene ends with a fade to black. And me denying the fact that I knew Karen was gonna die. By the way, do not name your children Karen. You wake up in the morning with Elizabeth, making you presumably some nice fish head tea. So you straight up just chug that crap, but there's no option here saying that you did enjoy it. The game is trying to get me to love Linda, and it's working, but don't give me this illusion of choice, my man. If I want to be Thor, I'd smash my cup and ask for another cup of tea. I should be able to do it whenever I want. We don't want to shout at Charlotte, so we go to the psychiatrist's office instead and shout at him for how he's been keeping information from us. We ask him questions about No, and he tells you that No were experimental super soldiers mixed with Kronos, making them gods in the battlefield. Due to your psychopathy, you were apparently a great candidate and were entered into the Gamma No category, which I'll say, once again, is the top of the chain. The psychopathy allows you to do morally dubious missions, and this psychopathy is even emphasized when you can't even help yourself to explain the satisfaction of killing. But the most important piece of information from this interaction, all of the No soldiers died from withdrawal. You're alive because of that constant supply of Kronos that you've been receiving. But it's implied that once you've killed all the people you've needed to, you'll be at the mercy of withdrawal symptoms and be stuck in that never-ending torture cycle for the rest of time. Your next mission is to eliminate all the sensitive material in Alquasim's bunker. This should be a piece of
Well, excuse me? How rude! No, I will not.
I can't show you my ID card, but I can show you my trap card.
Eternal chaos here!
Nice try. Quantum bioclimate fractal calamity.
Interesting strategy, but I anticipated it. Extreme God Force Servant Beast Mastery!
By the way, you just activated my trap card. I'm sorry, that in-game moment was just too beautiful and I just couldn't help myself. You go through the bunker slicing and dicing in an awesome fashion. Actually, let's show off some gameplay here. Your dream once again reappears in an ominous fashion, repeating itself, but with two key details. Scientist yells the word No, and the dream reveals a specific uniform of the No soldier. We almost have full context of what the dream actually is. Now I could analyze this section and turn up the tension a little bit, but little spoiler, we're gonna find out what this entire dream represents quite soon, so I feel like it's quite pointless. Nevertheless, you wake up and continue through the bunker, only to meet Gamer Girl in the same uniform. I don't know why she still wears it. It can't be her reminder that she did something good, because unlike you, she actually remembers the war and all the immoral crimes that she committed. It's probably a stylistic choice, I don't know. Anyway, when you battle out to the death, she blows the floor, revealing Alquazim's vault, and explains to you how he's actually been using her for contract killings, with the reward being Kronos. She also reveals that the quote-unquote dragon that you saw absolutely murk those guards is named 15. But also, she reveals that she's actually here to look for Kronos, because ever since Alquazim died, she hasn't gotten any Kronos, meaning that she's in withdrawal. As a compromise, she wants to demolish you and hope there's enough Kronos in your bloodstream for her to survive a little bit longer. She then explains that this is not a matter of skill, but willpower. That every time you kill her, she understands a little bit better how to kill you. This is some anime ass bullcrap, but it's still sick, so I'll go with it. You go into the vault and see a child, and you're surrounded by the same shack that was in your dream. With the choice, kill the child. In my first playthrough, I actually didn't press any buttons and I thought I unlocked a secret ending, but no. If you pick these options, Sekiro still resists. Despite everything in the game telling him to kill that child, he resists, comes to his senses, and flees from the vault, only to see Alquazim's family using it as a panic room to protect themselves from who may potentially kill them. I was not sure what that entire moment completely meant. All I knew in that moment was that Sekiro holds guilt for the child killings that occurred in the... Oh my god, his dreams were real! Sekiro enters the room with an anger, knowing the psychiatrist knew that his dreams were real the entire time. But the psychiatrist is too busy spitting racial slurs in Fortnite, so he tells you to get out of the room. But Sekiro no like racism, so he goes over to the psychiatrist, punches him down on the floor, and smashes his face in. His last words are what V uttered to Sekiro in that limo. You're effing subhuman. In my view, this is ironically supposed to say that Sekiro is no better than V. While he kills because it's necessary to keep him alive, he also kills because he enjoys it. While V tortured and killed people, you two were in the same frame of mind of enjoying these killing sprees. It's quite interesting how this came together. You recoil, noticing what you have done, but calm down, return back to your chair, and give yourself several doses of Kronos. After that, you walk up to the desk and see the next delivery of Kronos, and a dossier that claimed you were the next person to be assassinated. Crazy, right? It also shows valuable information, such as Zero's actual age being 22, showing that in the war, he was 15 years old when it ended. Seeing that extreme detail, you walk out of the building, shocked about the action that had just occurred. However, If you were a complete D-word for the entire game and completely interrupted the psychiatrist every single time, when you go forth and punch the psychiatrist, he straight up nails your ass to the ground and injects multiple drugs that the government developed during the war into his veins. He proceeds to fly up in the air and do some next level anime garbage. Oh my god. That was a hallucination. Damn, I can't analyze this at all. People have said this entire sequence is symbolic of Sekiro fighting against his addiction of Chronos. Others have said this shows the government had been implementing other drugs into the war. This entire sequence is so insane. I don't want to imply one answer to this. I do want to hear multiple theories of what this could possibly mean in the comments or in Reddit. I've watched that like 3 times and I'm still completely just baffled. Listen, and you're probably asking, why don't you just ask the subreddit for it and then implement it into your video? Listen, right? I'm so tired. It's been like an hour so far. What else do you want from me? You walk home only to find your house burglarized. You're allowed to enter the room and see everything ripped up to shreds on the floor. Find a note on the wall saying, "One life for another." No. No. Where's my daughter? Where's his daughter? The man didn't live with a kid. He was a junkie involved in some drug business. Where's the daughter? Get down on the ground, pedo. Yo, wait. Is that guy with the bathrobe and a samurai sword who dodged both my bullets potentially the guy who managed to murder dozens of police officers and crooks in the city? Nah. Now, I could speak for the full revelation of the dream, but I'm gonna shut up and let the scene play because I feel like it will be a lot more effective. dare they take away my dog? Wait, he didn't actually live with a girl. That could potentially mean that Phoebe wasn't actually real. Considering that through the entire game, no one else actually acknowledged her apart from you, which could potentially display that she's only a hallucination. In fact, I have a theory that Jesse is actually representative of Sekiro's morality. I believe this because throughout the entire game, he hasn't actually done anything resembling heroism or good. He's killed mainly to satisfy his bloodlust, but whenever he went back to his apartment, he would do kind actions such as give candy to the girl, let her watch movies with him, etc. However, once he showed his restraint towards killing a family, Zuri seemingly disappears. This means that he no longer needs the personification of morality within the little girl, as he now has a reminder that he will restrain himself from killing people that do not deserve it. Unlike that homeless dude, I kind of feel sorry for him. He feels remorseful for the actions that he had committed. Rachel being a hallucination could imply that tragedy and comedy are also hallucinations as well. People sometimes say policemen acknowledge the presence of comedy and tragedy, but we don't actually know if this reaction is due to their presence. Zero's consistent hallucinations in the game means that he's an unreliable protagonist, meaning that this could be a reaction to Zero killing the squad in the most badass way possible. This point is further made valid when you realize comedy and tragedy depict the happy and sad emotions that come with drinking wine. Maybe in this case Kronos could be the replacement of that wine, and that little girl represents happiness because she reminds him of his morality, whilst tragedy and comedy represent sadness because they remind him of his guilt and psychopathy. Additionally, whilst on the topic of guilt and psychopathy, I see people with theories about Zero not being a psychopath, but being brainwashed into thinking that he's one. This is due to psychopaths having the inability to express emotion of empathy and guilt. But throughout the entire game, we've seen that Sekiro is empathetic towards this little girl, and feels remorseful when he's about to kill Al-Qasim's family. This displays that the entire army that the government has formed could have been brainwashed into thinking they were psychopaths to make feelings such as guilt not be a barrier towards killing peasants, children and soldiers. Moreover, 15 could actually prove that these guys were brainwashed into thinking that were psychopaths. Remember that cathedral sequence? Noah Go Away has a strong belief that it's 15 talking to you, and I do too. This is due to 15 being the only character that uses the same font as that cathedral sequence when he slides in and kills V. 15 talks about how he feels guilty for burning down those villages or watching those peasants cry. This could potentially signify that he was also potentially brainwashed into thinking he was a psychopath, which allowed him to do these contemptible actions. Plus, Game Girl has never actually shown active signs of guilt, but shows that she wants revenge for being turned into a monster. This could imply that her guilt is manifesting itself into revenge just like 15's, the only difference being that he actually shows active signs of guilt. If everything I've said is right, 3 out of the 5 characters that have used Kronos have actually been brainwashed, which shows all the terrible morality held within the government. Now this is incredibly interesting, but doing research I've actually seen some articles that say psychopaths can feel emotions of guilt and empathy and love. It's just extremely difficult. So this theory could potentially be invalidated, but hey, I thought this theory was worth mentioning. I have a theory that V and Snow weren't in the No program, but instead used Kronos in the form of an experimental street drug. The first time you slayed Headhunter, she actually died, but when it happened again, she actually survived. V seemingly does the same thing, which could potentially be the result of your precognition abilities clashing together. It would also explain how V tricks you into a trap like in that mansion. Everyone else in the game who doesn't use Kronos dies in one hit, which communicates to me that V is an abuser of this substance. Now if I'm not wrong, how do I know that V is using the street drug? Well, first of all, he is shown to carry the street version around. He talks about gnolls as if he's not a part of them, like he's completely separate from that group. 15 also says that he was a fool, and furthermore seems disconnected with V. Essentially, this disconnection, followed up with the mentioning of experimental street drug, leads me to believe that he wasn't a gnoll. The only reason why I think Snow is not a gnoll either is because she's working with V, and I believe that she's using Kronos because she looks like she has the same dashing ability as 15, while simultaneously having the same teleporting ability as Game Girl. One thing that I actually forgot to script is I forgot to script about her transience of life with the cherry blossoms. Since Kronos is actually shown to kill people when they're in withdrawal, those cherry blossoms could potentially represent her being in withdrawal herself. She essentially needs that Kronos to survive as well. I can't validate my points due to how little Snow is in the game, but I feel like my assumptions on Snow are reasonable to say the least. Speaking of reasonable, I think it's time to conclude on what I think of the story. The story's presentation is amazing. One of the few things I like about it is the telltale trace system that you have. Despite having no effect to how the story actually plays out, it's a great way to immerse yourself in the world, with additionally adding replay value to see how the characters will react in different scenarios. Like I said previously, the game perfectly balances its tone with writing from comedic moments to serious, emotional ones. There is a massive whiplash that comes with how the tone is presented, and I think that's because of the game being aware of its own absurdity. Your curiosity is always piqued due to the game having an ambiguous presentation. Stuff is purposely left out for the nerds like you and I to embarrassingly make in-depth theories. Everything about this game's presentation is just nailed perfectly. I genuinely struggle to find any flaws within the story. I think it's because I have such an emotional bond with this game, because like I said, it's the first piece of media to ever make me cry. And maybe I'm completely blinded. This story is close to perfect in my eyes. So since I was blinded, I thought, let me look at some negative Steam reviews and look online for a bit. The main problem that people have with the story is that it didn't feel like there was a real ending. They thought the game was way too short, and as a result, the cliffhanger ending didn't feel earned. If the game was longer, they feel like the game could have had a much more satisfying ending, which I respond with, yeah, that's a completely valid criticism. You can finish this game in 3 hours on your first time if you're really good. And if you do the speed runs, you learn that the game is basically an hour and a half long. But I disagree with the ending feeling unsatisfying. The loose ends and not getting a full answer make me want more, and I think that's what a good ending is supposed to do. If it wasn't satisfying, I would have been like, wait, that's it? Kinda like Mirror's Edge Catalyst. And I would have put it down and never played through the campaign again. But I did. The game didn't feel inconsequential, and it feels like it's going somewhere so much more. Another reason why I felt the ending was great is because it made me feel like I missed out on a lot of details, which I did. I'm so glad I looked through theories and analyzed multiple points in this game. It was such an eye-opener. Without that ending, I would not have made as many connections to theories as I did. And if they're all disproved, oh well. Now that I've given the narrative, theories, and my opinions, you might think we're about to end the video. Nope. And if you're still here, you have nothing else better to do. So let's talk about the gameplay. Katana Zero is a neo-action platformer that requires quick reactions from the player, while simultaneously requiring logical thinking. This in combination with you having the ability to warp time in order to perform split-second actions that would be rather difficult without it. For example, this time ability allows you to deflect bullets in mid-air with ease. It's actually possible to complete the game without this time ability, which takes forever if you're not good, but it's deeply satisfying. If you die in a level, you're forced to rewind and try another strategy that you have at your disposal, making gameplay feel like a reaction-based time puzzle. That's of course a huge summary, but this section of the review isn't 15 minutes for no reason. We're of course going to talk about the little things as well. I may be a rookie at this, clearly by my voiceover skills, but give me a chance, or give me my 10th chance. The attention to detail in this game is absolutely phenomenal. One of the details I really love is the music in the game being in a diegetic form. For example, every time Sekiro is about to cut some fools up, he turns on his earphones and listens to music. Furthermore, when Sekiro enters that limo, music is presumably blasting out of those speakers. Once you take a step back and look at those little features, it just makes me appreciate the game even more. I would even go as far to say as the diegetic music further immersing me into this Neo-themed world. It's great. It's an absolutely admirable feature of the gameplay. Speaking of the music, the soundtrack is absolutely amazing. I'm not really a good music critic, I'm not an Anthony Fantano, but all I can really say is that this has a lot of character. Take this for instance. Whenever you enter the psychiatrist's office, the music can almost feel like a contrast to what's actually happening at face value. The psychiatrist claims that he's here to have a cooperative session, but the music somehow manages to invoke an ominous feel, making you feel like there is an ulterior motive. This could be because of the stuff like clashing of low notes in conjunction with high notes. This sends a shiver down my spine. It doesn't feel comfortable at all. Pair this to the bumping synth music whenever you cut falls in a level. This could potentially reflect Sekiro's enjoyment while killing people. And I agree with him. Killing people feels absolutely amazing. The sound effects are the right amount of cartoony, whilst the visual effects are so... Oh, I don't even have to say anything, mate. It's almost like the game makes you feel like Spider-Man. I mean, Sekiro. I mean, Zero. Yeah, you get what I mean. You have to constantly apply logic to how you would kill these enemies, as enemies are usually in conjunction with others that could kill you straight away if you're not careful. Let's look at an enemy type, for example, and let's see how he would function in conjunction with another one.
Skinny Ricky has entered the ring.
Skinny Ricky is one of the most common enemy types that the game will use in conjunction with others to throw you off. Its functionality is that when you hit them straight on, they will usually hit you at the same time, which triggers a stun for both you and Ricky. He's stunned for a significantly longer time than you, so when he's alone, he's quite easy to get a kill. What's difficult is when there are other enemies around you, they'll probably hit you first while you're stunned. So what you'll usually do to take out Skinny Ricky's efficiently is that you'll roll and slash them from behind. It's faster and allows you to take more time to take out other enemies such as gunmen and shotgunners. This is just one example of how the game makes the player use logic and fast-paced reactions to be efficient. Sometimes the enemy actions might be inconsistent to what they did before, which is an annoyance, I'd admit, but it doesn't happen too often. You should be fine, hopefully, for the most part. If you're watching gameplay, you're probably noticing that while you roll, the bullets are not hitting you. Yeah, that's the point. The roll is a mechanic that allows you to be invincible for a certain amount of time. Hell, you can even dodge explosions and be completely fine if you time it correctly. It sounds easily exploitable, but it's really not, due to the precise timing that you have to do in specific moments in conjunction with the level design. Enemies are placed in such a way that will punish you for trying to exploit that role instead of trying to master that mechanic. In fact, the level design in this entire game is great for the most part. There's only one level that I absolutely despise in this game, and that's the prison. If you choose to traverse the level in stealth, it's a tedious experience, as it's noticeably clear that the game wasn't designed for this sort of playstyle. It mostly just requires waiting in a specific area for a prolonged amount of time and then moving to the next level. You know, let's take a look at Mark of the Ninja real quick. It's one of the best 2D stealth games that I've ever played in my life. Its level design doesn't require waiting as much as using your agility, the multiple gadgets that you have at your disposal, along with some great level design. Katana Zero could potentially have a great stealth level if the level provided alternative routes for you to go through, allowed you to distract enemies more than once, or introduce some new mechanics. It's the level I dread to play in stealth. If you decide to go all guns blazing, or rather, sword slice, no, that doesn't work, and it doesn't matter if you go guns blazing. It's just a boring level. It doesn't challenge you in any way and doesn't require the attention that the other levels grant to you. But every other level in the game ranges from decent to phenomenal. I've already mentioned how the enemies are in conjunction with each other in order to make the game more of a challenge. But there are some distinct levels here that remain consistent to the core game mechanics. Now, I already explained this concept here in my rather mediocre retrospective on Half-Life, but I'll re-explain what I actually mean. And from now on, I'll call this concept DC and play this clip from now on. Having distinct gameplay that remains consistent to the core game mechanics is in reference to the game being different but not drawing away from the reason why I'm actually playing it or enjoying it. A bad example of DC is Mary Jane's stealth sections in Spider-Man PS4. Even if those levels were well designed, I'm not going to play a Spider-Man game just to be Mary Jane. So once I play that level, even if it was enjoyable, I'll most likely never play it again. Because I'm not here for Mary Jane, I'm here for Spider-Man swinging through New York City. But a good example of DC is of course Katana Zero, because we're going to talk about two distinct levels here. The level on the motorway, and the prison level playing as 15. I actively groan at games that switch to vehicles because the levels like this are usually horrendous, or at best, subpar. This level was actually decent. It sticks to the core gameplay of you using slow-mo to avoid enemies, slashing left and right, whilst also giving a good switch up. I actually had a lot of fun here. However, one of the best examples of the sticking level sticking to the core of its gameplay is 15's level. 15 has a different gameplay style, but it's still extremely fun. Look at this, you cut through mofos in one shot. This game would be so disgustingly tedious if you played this as Zero. Oh my god, I accidentally said Zero. I meant to say Sekiro. God damn it. I kept it up for like an hour and a half. That's fine. This level lines up so many policemen that Sekiro wouldn't be able to handle them, but with 15's dash ability, he absolutely mops the floor with them. This different style, sticking to the core gameplay, makes me want to actively replay the level again. Actually, whenever I go on Steam and start playing this game, I intend to finish it in one sitting. If you attempt to speedrun and improve, this game's replayability is completely insane. Even if you get bored, there's a hard mode that completely revamps how the levels actually play. You even have the addition of 2 new enemy types called Karate Ricky and the Machine Gunner. Karate Ricky is an enemy that's immune to your raw attack, and the Machine Gunner just completely gives you bullets like it's Christmas. I've yet to complete hard mode due to me realizing that I'm not good enough, and I think I should master normal mode before I go to hard mode. Hell, if that's not enough, you even have multiple swords to play with. That's right, if you go through these levels and find secrets, you can unlock different swords in the government lab. These swords can go from being purely aesthetic to actually providing a different playstyle. One of my favorite swords in fact is the Savant Knife. It reduces the range you can hit enemies, but speeds up how fast you can actually sway your weapon. This allows you to hit multiple bullets more reliably in mid-air, which the normal katana can't actually do, well, as consistently. You have 5 unlockable swords. I personally don't enjoy every single sword. I personally enjoy being able to be as quick as possible, because in video games, mobility is amazing. There are some swords that have an ability, but in exchange of a slower swinging speed. For example, the Claymore can break through Ricky's stun function, but in general you can't swing as fast. That's not appealing to me, as in my eyes, the quicker you are, the more you can do and the more fun the game is. That's not only my mentality in Katana Zero, but basically every game that I've ever played. But obviously, there are other people that may think differently, and that's the beauty of having different playstyles at your disposal. You can mix up the game in various ways if you get bored of one, or switch to your more preferred playstyle. This game is an absolute masterpiece in my opinion. I was going to analyze more about it until I realized I couldn't provide any more insightful input that others have already done. The story is great, the presentation is great, the gameplay is great, it's £11.39 on Steam, and I'd say it was completely worth the money. 100%, don't regret it. This is coming from a kid who waits over half a year for a game to go on sale. I love it, and I think this analysis has definitely shown that. Now askiisoft, you better not mess up on that DLC, okay guys? Okay guys? This analysis will of course be outdated by then, but I don't care. This was so much fun. You guys are legends. Keep doing your stuff. Just take my money, or my parents' money. I'm 16 and Corona's still out there, so it's not really easy to get a job right now to earn for myself. I'm going to ramble for a bit about stuff that isn't related to Katana Zero, so if you made it here, thank you for watching this love letter. Take care. The thing that I've noticed about my channel is that I really want to improve my writing, like stupendously, because the writing in my other videos wasn't really up to standard. And you know what? I could do a lot better here. I could balance the tone of my comedy a lot better. I could balance my analysis a lot better. I could make my jokes better. I could make my segues more seamless and less clunky. My narration could be a lot better because there's a lot of pauses. But I'm going to keep doing it because I think this would be a great source of practice. I want to actually become good at this instead of creating a quote unquote high quality content. I want to actually become good at creating high quality content. You know what I mean? My next project will be a lot more stripped back because I don't really know what form of content really suits me most. I'm testing this and I'm going to test the stripped back version of this. It's weird. I want the right amount of weird and the right amount of idiot with the right amount of comedy, with the right amount of analysis. You get me? Writing this wasn't supposed to come off emotional. If it does, I'm sorry. But nevertheless, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. you probably did if you came this far. So I'm gonna do the outro again. This is Jer, and take care. Boss. Alright, so okay, I just turned on the microphone, right? So basically for a video, what I want you to do is I want you to do some anime ass voice acting. Can I give you can I give you some lines? Can I give you some lines?
Alright, what am I saying?
Alright, so
Wait, what type of anime do you want? Do you want the tsundere? Do you want the yandere? Do you want the crazy? Do you want the young?
So basically what I'm doing is what is it? It's basically like a anime battle. So basically like in this game you go to this bunker, the receptionist pulls out a card. The end.
I have to be shocked.
Yeah. Okay, let me just send you the lines.
Come on.
Nah.
Why did you laugh?
I'll probably make this.
I was waiting to hear you go disgusting. What the is that sentence? Extreme cat voice. 7 D's matrix. What the is that last one?
It's an anime ass. Just go with it. Just go with it.
How rude. No, I will not.
I can't show you my ID card.
I challenge.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was gonna say my line. Alright, we'll do this again. We'll do this again. Come on. End the call, and then I'll call you like right
1
after.
second.
Alright. You know what? That's great. Yeah, that's good.